Hello and welcome to the Silent Evil Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I am Cameron.
And we're coming back at you with a brand new episode. I feel like it's been like sort of a moment. You know, we had that period of game catch-up, of course, of all sorts of new things coming out. You know, the period where Nintendo puts out a bunch of stuff like Metroid Prime 4 and Hyrule Warriors and Pokemon, all that stuff. I know you had Tarkov that took up more time than you're probably willing to admit.
Yes. God. I clocked it, dude. I was looking at my playtime hours. So since November 15th, I put in 100 hours. Which is like it's nothing, you know, comparatively to most like Tarkov players, but like, yeah, for being a full-time worker, dad, you know, only having the weekends to really play, like 100 hours is a lot.
Well, it's a lot too, and then you throw in you've played other games in the time period as well.
I know, because I'm constantly rotating shit out too. But no, it's been great, man. It's been a good time. So.
It's always like when I see my end of the year reviews on like whether it's PlayStation or Xbox or Steam or whatever, and it tells me it's like you only played like a little over 100 hours. It's like that seems like so little. I'm like, well, wait a second, I got to add in like not only all the consoles of nowadays, but then all the retro consoles that don't track any time. So it's like, okay, it's probably like 100 plus per console.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know,
on any given day, at least a half hour, you know, of something, you know, like,
exactly,
at least, you know, but more often than not, usually multiple hours per day. So
it's like when they used to have those surveys that you would see every once in a while. They would come from Nintendo or PlayStation, and they'd always have that thing where like, how many hours of video games do you play in the week? And I always looked at it like, I'm like, you're asking a gamer, and it's like, you know, like less than like an hour, you know, 2 to 3 hours, 4 to 5. I'm like, it's like, and I've always literally checked. It's like, you know, 7+ hours. It's like, yeah, that seems like that's already kind of a low number right there. That should be like the first tier, and then go from there.
Exactly.
You know, I always thought that it's like, don't you? Maybe they're just afraid we don't want to see like if they have like the 90 to 100 hours.
Yep.
How much they could check off, But yeah, in our process of doing this, there was another game we were kind of like game planning to do, and we kind of gave it the old college try and tried it out, and that was Don't Look Outside, which was really cool. It had great artwork in it, a cool premise of being like you're literally trapped in this apartment complex and you got to just go explore, and all these weird things are happening to your neighbors, and they're like morphing into like gross, nasty monsters, and they sometimes don't notice it yet, and sometimes depending on what their room was and what they were into is what changes their thing. And it was really neat, but it felt like it was going to be one of those games that was going to drag on for a long time, because it was partially an RPG, and it played like Dragon Warrior style, like old school Dragon Warrior, not new Dragon Warrior, like literally like NES, where you have like one character fighting through, and then occasionally you might pick somebody else up, but they don't stay with you. Yep. So it was really cool. Don't get me wrong, the handful of hours I played it, I really liked the stuff it was, but I just felt like I was constantly like had no idea where to go next.
Oh yeah.
The apartment complexes kind of look the same, where you're walking around these drab, dark things, and yeah, it was one of those ones I just was afraid. It was like, dude, this could be a real long time. And, you know, as much as I enjoys it, yeah.
Well, even that, I mean, like, I left it installed, and like, I continually keep going back to it. I'm just like playing little chunks at a time or whatever. It's a wonderful game. Like, I would really, I'd like to do an episode on it eventually, but you're right. Like, I don't know if this is going to take me another 10 hours, another 20 hours, another 60 hours. You know, like I have no idea like what to expect with this game. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, I'm just going to just casually play it, you know, and just kind of see where it goes, because it is a really interesting concept. I do enjoy that portion of it. But, you know, through all that, with Q4, with all these game drops, with this, you know, like, oh, let's play this RPG and blah, blah, blah. And then like, you know, getting like a week or two into it and being like, like, you know, I don't know about this one, man.
Yeah.
You know?
I felt like it was like, you know what, it's probably good to pull the ripcord earlier on this instead of getting like too deep into it and then realizing like, oh, we've gone too far. Because sometimes I do get a little bit iffy when it comes down to indie RPGs, because sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to like how long they could make that, you know, because that's one of like there's a handful of indie pitfalls that I'm always kind of like worried about sometimes. Is that one of the big ones is that they don't know how to regulate time. They just make the game like, oh man, the game's gonna be 50+ hours long. It's like, no, there's a reason why a lot of times good RPGs stop at 20 hours. They know you've gone far enough, you know. And unless you're Final Fantasy, you should probably never breach that 20 hours because very few of them can like keep up with that, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, and there's just some other things there. But overall, though, I still really liked the game. I thought the artwork was awesome in there. The characters were funny. The dialogue was witty, and just the experience was neat. But as I said, it was one of those ones where it's just like, where are we going with this?
Yep.
And there was like not even guides on Steam because I thought I was like, well, I'll probably at least look up where I need to go next because once again, you're walking through and there's literally one floor in that apartment that like keeps circulating. So it's like, oh, that's great. And now I don't even know where I'm at anymore. And I've been in this room 15 times. That's not the one I need to go to, but
well, its biggest downfall is that it doesn't have a fucking map. If that game had a map, dude, if that game had a map, it would fix a lot of those problems. But
I don't know why. I never thought about this, but for the majority of survival horrors, what we've learned, at least, if anything, don't have maps or don't have very good maps. That's the other one. Resident Evil, I guess, spoiled because Resident Evil always gave you a map. They even gave you a map when you didn't need a map.
Oh, I know. Especially like the newer age version of the maps and whatnot too, which exists in some of the older games. Don't get me wrong, but like the checkoffs of like, oh, it's a blue door, I've never been there. Oh, it's a red door, okay, I've been there. You know, it's like cool.
You know, or like Conscript, which had like it's a modern game, but it had like a fantastic map, and then they've literally improved it even better than it already was. So. But no, instead we decided, speaking of Resident Evil, we went with a Shinji Mikami game of right when he decided to leave Capcom and go do his own thing. And I love how he's like, well, I'm going to go do my own thing, guys. See you later. It's like, well, what are you going to go make? Well, I'm going to make Evil Within, which is kind of in the vein of like Resident Evil, but it always kind of reminds me of if Shinji Mikami used the Resident Evil gameplay, but added in Silent Hill type elements. Like it's literally the best of both worlds. And I don't know if you can tell, but this cover is actually holographic.
Yep.
It does sort of shift on there.
Yeah, that's cool. Nice.
But this was a game that I initially played it on PS3 when it first came out. Because it's one of those games that it's on PS4 and Xbox One, but you could kind of tell it was made for 360 and PS3, and then it just happened to be by the time it came out, the other systems were out.
Yeah. Now I remember this game coming out. I never played it, because again, I wasn't really into like horror games in general, majority of my life. But I remember this coming out, and I remember hearing, Mikami's name was like tied to it, and I was like, oh, that's cool, thinking about his post Capcom days and whatever, for this to be the start of it. And especially now after playing through this, like I'm mad that I didn't play it back then because like this game is very good, so.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, like I think of it being this and along with the sequel being like the top tier of the modern day survival horror games. Like I like it a lot. I'm not going to say this first one does have a little bit of rough parts in it. I want to say from my memory, the second one fixed everything, and like everything about that one was even better. Even though this one still has a lot of elements in it that kind of get like diluted in the second or get taken out sort of and stuff. Not saying a bad thing, but there is some really cool stuff here. But I kid you not, when I first got this game, I think I got it off GameFly because I was just trying to save some money. So I got it on PS3 on here. And I was super excited about it. It was one of those ones, new Shinji Mikami, here it is. This is kind of be like, and it felt like for everybody who didn't really like Resident Evil 6, which I love Resident Evil 6, this game seemed like it was like, okay, this is going to be the game you're going to want to play. This would be the survival horror that you were looking for. Even if you didn't like Resident Evil 5, this was supposed to be it. And I remember when I first got it, popped it in, super excited, got it all ready to go on the PS3. And that first chapter, even though it starts off cool cinematically wise, when you run into that first villain, and don't get me wrong, it sets up really neat because it's literally you're playing as this guy, Sabastion. He's like a police investigator. He's got a couple other partners with him. You go to investigate this hospital. You walk in there. There's dead bodies like everywhere. It's like, oh, what the hell just happened here? There was a massacre going on and so on. And you're investigating it and whatnot. And the next thing you know, it's like, some weird stuff starts happening and you guys kind of get split apart, and I can't remember, did you go in the ambulance by this point? I can't remember if you go in the ambulance first or you go in the ambulance second.
No, because the ambulance is the very end of the chapter, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah. So like you do this and then all the weird stuff starts happening, and of course Sabastion gets sort of knocked out here. And you wake up and you're hanging in this like meat locker thing, like kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre style. And it's cool because you're like there and you see this big dude and whatnot. And you're like, okay, I'm going to swing over, grab this knife, and you finally break yourself free. But the next part, what it was one of those creatures that gives you the instant kill cutscene if you walk into him. And I remember when I first saw this here, because I was thinking, like, if this is the very first part of the game, this is going to be a concept throughout the game, you know? And this was that time period that was kind of popular, was to have the one-hit kill villains, you know? And that's my biggest, like, that's like the one thing I don't like in a survival horror game or a stealth game, is the one-hit, like, game overs. Like, at least give me a fighting chance. I always feel like, make it, the perfect example is Nemesis in Resident Evil 3. Nemesis in Resident Evil 3, he's real tough. You're probably better off running away, but if you want to fight him, you can. And if you do defeat him in that moment, guess what? He gives you something. So it's like you actually, there's like a risk-reward thing going on, and I feel like that's the best way to do that, where once it gets to that point where when a guy just grabs you and it goes to a cutscene, game over, to me, it loses the scariness and it just becomes annoying. Like, oh, here's this asshole again. Like, let me deal with this, or let me run out of this room and wait for him to go away. So it takes the scariness ironically out, which is what they're going for, but it makes it more of like a problem. Like, oh, okay, let me sit here and wait for you to do your route, you know?
Well, and that's the very first portion of this game too. It's like, you know, so when I first started playing this, the game is so hyper detailed with its environmental storytelling. It's the, you know, like that type of design. Like, it's so insanely detailed that when you're hanging there and you cut yourself off and you land down on the ground, the butcher dude, you know, drags off the half of the body or whatever off in the distance and whatnot. And you're just looking around, dude, and there's just like hooks and bodies and guts and gore and like all kinds of shit going on in that room. To the point that I didn't recognize the fucking keys that are hanging on the hook, you know, or whatever. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I kept getting caught like over and over in that. Exactly. It's instant death, you know, and like, I'm not learning anything. I'm not, you know, like anything like that. And I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do? So right off the rip, I open a wiki right off the rip and I'm like, first 20 seconds of the game, like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Oh, grab the keys, idiot. You know, like, then you grab the key and then the rest of the game flows from there, you know, and it was fine. But like, from the very, very get-go, like, it was I think it was one of my earliest comments to you about it. It's just like, dude, this instant death thing, like, that sucks, you know, like,
well, I kid you not,
ways to do it, but not like
this is how my story goes with the PS3 version, is like that part, like I died a bunch of times too, just trying to get kind of through it. And I was just like, dude, if this is what the game is, sorry, Shinji, I think I'm just going to send this game back and call it a day here. And I did the thing is it was like, I slept on it. I woke up the next day. I gave it one more college try. I was like, that's it. You know, I'll give it one more. I'll try it one more. I have it right here. Let's do it. I got past that first chapter and so on like that. And then when you get to chapter 2, the game turned amazing. It went from like, oh, that part went away, and realistically, for the most part, that doesn't come back too much. It does come back a couple more times, but it's not nearly as bad as that first part. And the game just goes straight into being like Resident Evil 4. And I was like, oh, well, it's amazing now. Like, what the hell? It's like, but that initial thing, it's like, and I know there's a lot of other people that don't like that kind of thing too. And I could see that first part being a humongous turnoff to people because you just don't know, because that could be like what the majority of the game is just because that's how it introduces to you. You're like, well, wait a second. Am I going to have to just have some stupid creature I can't fight and he gets an instant, you know? I feel like the better way to do that stuff is be like, okay, Sabastion has no weapon. Well, he has that knife. Well, what do you mean he has no weapons? Like,
yeah, exactly.
he should be the assassin. But let's just say if he didn't have that knife, that creature should I would rather just have that creature do massive damage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like one of those ones, maybe Sabastion dies in 3 hits or something like that, but at least it kind of, so it makes you go like, well, don't get next to him. But if you do, it's not the end of the world.
So you mentioned it just reminded me, because the very start of this, you mentioned, you know, like, I've been playing a shitload of Tarkov recently and whatnot, and Tarkov is a completely different, it's a hardcore military first person shooter. However, it also has training mechanics in the game that is not the type that hold your hand, right? So like in the game, there's mines, okay? And with mines like scattered throughout the battlefield and whatnot, like visually in the world, there are signs up on the walls and like on fences and whatnot that show like, you know, a skull with crossbones, red sign, you know, don't go out there, there's mines, you know? So what the game does is that because the game isn't physically telling you that, like a prompt doesn't just pop up and say, watch out for mines. What the game teaches you is that if you walk out into that minefield, you miss those signs and whatever, you walk into those minefields, you're going to get hit by a mine. A mine's going to go off. But what it does is that it just damages your legs. if you continue to go out into the minefield from there, then it kills you, right? So take that type of concept with something like the Evil Within here at the very start of the game. Fuck, I can't find the keys. Okay, that's a mistake on me as a player, have that enemy damage me severely, okay, like to where like, oh, don't want that to happen again. Like that type of mentality as a player. That would have, and that can be said for any one of these instant kill type things or whatever. Yeah, it was just kind of a bad taste right off the rip. However, once I got through that first little section or whatever, got the keys and whatever, and started moving on, and then it introduced stealth mechanics, and then it introduced panic mechanics, where it's like, oh, you're about to get caught, better start running or whatever, and it's like a very curated sequence of him, Sabastion just like running, with all these big blades spinning at him, and just like it was like a crazy like carnival like thrill ride, So I actually felt like super elated by the end of that chapter. I was like, holy shit, like that was bombastic, like for the start of this game. And it made me really excited, to play the rest of it or whatever. So it's funny to hear when you were texting me about your initial, reaction when the game first came out, about how that first chapter was kind of like a downside to you and the rest of the game got better. Like I said, like for me anyways, like it really made me like want to play it more. It was just like, that was really cool. I wonder what else this game's going to have. And then every fucking subsequent chapter thereafter is just like new place, new area, new mechanics, new things. It's just like,
and I sum up the first chapter, I throw that one all under the bus. Realistically, it's just like those first couple scenes in it, because once it starts going to like where you're just running away, and it's like because I don't mind that kind of thing where it's like, okay, it's one hit kills, but you're on like an on track kind of like, just run this direction, and as long as you don't stop, you'll be fine kind of thing. Like when it's just kind of more like slightly cinematic gameplay. When it's at that part, that is kind of cool, and Sebastian's running through all the traps, and he's going through, and he's falling over, and he's like injured, and you're like, oh, is he gonna make it? Well, it's a cutscene, he'll make it. It's a video game. Like those things don't really. When I think about those nowadays, I just know all I gotta do is get from point A to point B. That's how it's designed. But you get from there, and then finally he breaks out of like the area that he's at, and then the rest of your crew's all in an ambulance and whatnot, and then you're all driving off, and you're like, what the hell happened to the city? Let's get out of here. And you start seeing the main characters that are introduced here. So you got Seabass, who's your main guy. That's who you're playing as, and so on. Then there's Joseph, who's his partner, who you'll run across from time to time. And then Kidman, Judy Kidman, who's the new young buck here. But realistically, she's been sent in as a different kind of ploy later on. And then there's the doctor guy and his one patient who just looks like this mental case going on here. And these are your core members. You're going to kind of run around, and you're just in this ambulance, and you're driving along, and the city's starting to fall apart and everything like that. And the next thing you know, you get in this big accident, and everybody's split up. Chapter 2.
What a cool design, dude. Like the way that the city, so like to try to describe it to the audio listeners or whatever, it's like, just imagine like a massive city, just like the San Andreas Fault is like cracking right through the center of it. Things are shifting and moving, and like it's almost like Doctor Strange, like those scenes in Doctor Strange where the city's like morphing in on itself and stuff. So cool, dude. So cool. I really
it's also another one. It kind of feels like too is like Inception, how that one has that city where it's sort of like folding over on itself and so on. Except for this one's cracking and destroying and getting brutal looking and whatnot. And there's just so much of that kind of going on. And then you see all this stuff, and then when you get to chapter 2, it literally shifts it all up, because now you like literally feel like you're in Resident Evil 4 at this point.
Right.
Like you're literally like in this old-timey looking village. You now come across the zombies, which are your core main enemies, and so on like that. It starts introducing all sorts of new features, as in like you have the stealth mechanic here. You can go up and stab a zombie in the back and whatnot, and then you take his goo, because that's pretty much what you do in this game. Is you just search for the goo everywhere.
Just the green goo.
Which don't get me wrong, I love a game where you have like an upgrade system and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes when it's like this, though, is I feel like I spend way too much time just searching like every nook and cranny, just looking for stuff. That sometimes I kind of question that when you play a game. Is like, does that make it better or sort of worse? Like, I don't know. I like the upgrade system, so let's just But when you literally have to, when you feel like you're not just going straight ahead with the story, and you're like, let me hold on a second, everybody. I need to look at every corner here and find my goo.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you get really disappointed if you go in a corner and you don't find any goo.
Yeah, for me, it I don't know. It made the game like way more action based, which is like, I guess walking into this experience, I really didn't know what to anticipate, because I knew it was Shinji Mikami. you're calling it, like the magnum opus of his, creations. Has some survival horror in it. Kind of has some, like, I don't know, hack and slash style horror, your Saw style horror. It has, like all these different things like mixed together. I didn't know what to anticipate here, and the goo type stuff, the upgrade system, all that, like, it just screams Resident Evil 4. Like, it's just, I mean, that's what this is.
Yeah, it's just Resident Evil 4 with more survival horror elements. I feel that's kind of it. In some ways, more horror. It doesn't have tons of puzzles or anything in this game or anything like that.
Right.
But it's got just like compared to, I feel like it's sort of one of those ones like. Because Shinji Mikami, I can't remember if he was on Resident Evil 5. Like, he wasn't obviously a main person, but I can't remember if he was sort of partially there as a producer
or something.
I want to say by Resident Evil 6, he was already gone. And so he pretty much, but this is the first game I know. I know he did work on some other stuff. Like, he did some things with Suda 51. Like, I think he's part of Killer 7 a little bit. And then, of course, he did Shadows of the Dam, but I think. Shadows of the Dam must have came before this game, actually. So I guess he did that. So maybe that's what he did before he did Evil Within. So he was working on some other things. But it felt like this kind of came back, and it's just like, okay, like, I'm going to kind of do like how I probably would have gone with Resident Evil 4, but for Resident Evil 5. Like, I feel like that's sort of what this game kind of feels like.
Yeah. It has so much like RE4 DNA built into it, but it is its own experience. Absolutely. Like, it's not like a direct clone or anything like that, but it was my entire play experience. I'm like thinking about this podcast episode coming up and like, how am I going to describe this game? Like, what is the best way to describe this game? And just continually, it's just RE4. Like, it has the core fundamentals. It has the DNA. It has the foundation of what RE4 is, and then expanded upon it. Like I said, added like all these other things. Whereas, RE4 is like very like, I almost kind of view it as like comedic horror, to an extent. Like, there's a lot of comedy things in that game, whereas this one's a lot more serious and it's a lot more like Saw-like, just visually, like the game is very, very bloody and gory and whatnot. It's a lot more serious of a tone. But anyways, like I said, it was very difficult for me to think about this game outside of the bounds of like what RE4 is, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It's just one way to kind of look at it through that lens. So,
well, and plus for the fact that Shinji Mikami is the director of RE4, so it's nothing wrong with him kind of running with that more.
Right.
And the fact that RE4 really is like a good gameplay engine. And just gameplay style where it's like, okay, you have survival horror, but now it's kind of action horror, and you got this great upgrade system in it, that's probably one of the best parts of it. Once again, I still kind of question though, just as time has gone on, like that, like when you start having to search every nook and cranny, like does that make for a better gameplay experience? Like, don't get me wrong, I like the upgrade part, but there's other ways you could get upgrade points. You could just get upgrade points by killing things or by beating levels or that kind of way. Well, instead of sometimes like having to, you're just out and about like searching, and then like you get really pissed if you miss an area that like you're like, oh man, there was another room there. Oh, I could have got more 1,200 more goo. Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, when I knew that this game was going to be heavy action, it took me quite a few chapters to actually get this achievement. But there are achievements in the game for kill X amount of whatever. For the two that I got were kill 200 enemies, and I was like, holy shit, like that's a lot, and then the next one I got towards the end of the game was kill 400. It's double that. So like, you're killing a lot of shit in this game, dude, like a lot, and constantly picking up the goo and, soaking that up, and then, doing your upgrade paths and all that too, which, the upgrades are sick. I thought they were really cool. So,
well, and then this is one of those games too that has that thing that like, you do have the choice between fighting and running from certain enemies, but a lot of times it's just better off to actually fight them because you get more goo. Right. You know what I mean? It's like one of those, like, it's like, well, why not, kill everything in sight and, take it all, because you need those upgrades. And the upgrade system is kind of interesting because what happens is you find these like mirrors and they take you back to this hospital, which once again has these like more Silent Hill type vibes. You go in there and there's this like nurse lady in there who literally reminds me a lot of the nurse in Silent Hill, but her name's Tatiana. And she just kind of makes you just feel more confused as you kind of go in there initially. You're like, okay, well, let me just wake up in this room. And clearly I'm a patient that just has free roam access to this place. And your upgrade system is you literally sit down in a chair and this big old cap comes down and stabs some needles into your brain. And, you know, then you could do your Resident Evil upgrades as in, you know, your stats and your guns and all that kind of stuff there. And then the other upgrade system you find throughout is you find these little like statues that look like the statue of like Madonna or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and you break those and you get little keys, which are cool because then you just get more stuff in there, either ammo, you know, goo and, you know, bolts and all kinds of stuff.
Which I didn't find a ton of those. Like, I mean, it took me a minute to even like recognize like what they were to begin with, you know, like, and then I finally shot one, and then I noticed a little shiny thing coming out of it, and I was like, "Oh!" And then everything started to make sense because like the hospital section that you go to in general, like really confused me on what it even was upon first entry. I was like, "What the fuck is that?" You know, because there's like 3 rooms you can go into or whatever, you know, and then there's just this mirror on the wall, and it's just you just kind of warp back and forth between realities and shit. And I'm like, "What the fuck? What is that?" But that was majority of my play experience in this game, and still to even as of right now, I'm still like, "What the fuck is going on in this game?" You know, like.
Yeah, no, this game's story is a little bit kind of, you know, it's just an interesting one. For the longest time, I think that's how he wants it to be. He wants you to be kind of confused, and you just keep going through this carnival ride of like seeing where you're going to go to next, you know. And as I said, like at this point, even in chapter 2, you're just roaming through this like village area, you know, learning to kill zombies and find the goo. And then they start having these traps. So there's like bear traps and there's like tripwire mines and all kinds of stuff, you know. And they give you kind of a reason for like, you know, the cool thing is like the enemies can run into some enemies can run into them, let's be honest. Some enemies for some reason just go right through them. The enemies you would want to get caught in it don't for some reason. Like the chainsaw guy, I noticed he does not get caught by any of those things. Yeah. Because I thought about I was like, I'm gonna have him run into some of those bombs. I watched him walk right through it, and it was like, Yep, there he goes. Yep. And yeah, he's a fast one. He's faster than the chainsaw guy in Resident Evil 4. But But you have all these traps, and if you disarm them, which is kind of cool, you get like little parts, which at first you have no idea. Like, well, okay, I'm getting parts for whatever I'm going to upgrade later on, but sure, I'll collect these, you know, disarm some of these traps, hopefully not run my face into some of them, like, you know, happens every once in a while. Like how Jason's over there waving.
Oh, see him. What are you doing? Because I thought that was an interesting mechanic, and then the Resident Evil burn the body, you know, mechanic comes back too, you know, with the matches and all that, you know, and like being able to burn things.
Which,
what's the point of it?
That was the one. I remember when me and RJ first played this game when it came out. We were using our Resident Evil remake knowledge, like for why they gave you matches. I was like, oh, these things are going to come back to life, and they're going to be like Crimson Head zombies, you know. And then you kind of realize after a while, you're like, well, that's not really the case. Like, why do I have these matches here? And really, what it is, it took me a moment to figure it out. Like, was that it's just there to save ammo, realistically, because what you can do is you can shoot a zombie down like in the legs and then light them on fire, and sometimes if you're lucky, another zombie will get caught in the process too. So it's a weird way to save ammo. And then the other thing that happens is that sometimes there's zombies laying on the ground or just dead people. I don't know if they're zombies. You can light them on fire, and one, it'll either prevent them from turning, or one, you just burn a dead corpse. And if you're lucky, you'll get some goo out of it, but a lot of times that doesn't happen either. Yeah. So it's kind of a weird concept. And then there's other weird stuff you can burn too. Like in that first like zone, there's like these hay barrels you can burn. I don't know. Yeah, I almost don't think I found an item. I kept thinking there was going to be like an item if I burned that, because every once in a while in some other things you'll burn it and there'll be an item behind it. You're like, cool.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. Like, it was so spread because there's so many things you can burn in this game. There's oil spills everywhere in this game, like everywhere. So it's like, okay, they want us to use this as a combat mechanic, but like I couldn't really figure out. Like, the enemies had to be like on top of each other when I threw that fucking match down. And then on top of that too, it's like, cool, you can save ammo, but it's still a consumable resource. Like, you have to constantly be finding fucking matches. You know? So like
and until you upgrade them, I think you can only carry like 5 of them at the beginning.
Exactly. You know, that's what I was saying. It's like,
which is like the weirdest one. Like, you can only carry 5 matches. Like, why can I only carry 5 matches?
Right.
I get it that it's a video game thing, but like, they're matches.
Yeah. So similar to you, I very much had the RE1 mentality too, of just like need to burn the bodies so they don't come back later. But then after like a chapter or two of like, oh, I'm never going back to that area again. Like what? Like this is a linear game, you know? Like it's just a train moving forward type game. And again, I was like, what the fuck is the point? So I kind of like stopped doing it. I used it in a couple scenarios or whatever where I could cluster up like a handful of enemies together. But at the same time, it's like you throw that fire down or whatever and a body lights on fire and you have an enemy that's 3 feet away walking towards you. You would expect that if it walked over the fire, it would catch on fire and die, but it doesn't. It doesn't play those rules that way. You know, like it just walks like right over it. And it's like, so again, like it was like a dead mechanic to me, like, and it, you know, throughout most of the game, I was just like, I don't understand the point of this, really.
Yeah, no, the best thing for it realistically is just to burn the random bodies that you find. So one, if they do come to life, you got them, and two, sometimes they did drop items. Yeah, that's kind of where I learned where the matches really do come into handy. But it is a weird one because the fact that Shinji Mikami made Resident Evil Remake, I think that's the most confusing thing about it. Like, you're just using that knowledge from there, and it's like completely different. I want to say the matches aren't even in the second one. I think that they took that feature out because I think it just was that confusing.
Yeah, it just seems like a legacy mechanic for the sake of being a legacy mechanic. You know, like I didn't understand why it was there, but. Anyways. Yeah,
and as I said, it's not that the matches don't have purpose. There's still things you need them for, but it's kind of once again, there could have been probably a different way to go about it, or it should have just been, I don't know. It's strange. It's one of those weird ones that's just hard to explain, and especially the first time you come into this game, it definitely gives you a curveball of like what you're really doing with these matches here.
Yeah. It was another interesting thing too, and this is again like kind of breaking down the wireframe, but like just thinking about the game design itself, some enemies disappear after death and others don't. And I was trying to like really figure out like, oh, it's got to be just like a memory resource type thing or something, you know, especially these rooms where it's like hold the room down for 5 minutes, you know, while it's just tossing enemy after enemy after enemy, you know, like that style of gameplay or whatever. But like I said, it was so random with like you would be in a combat scenario like that, you'd be killing enemies and whatever, and there's just bodies laying all over the floor or whatever. And then you go to a room that has 2 enemies, you would kill the first enemy, it would flop over on the ground, and then would just like kind of fade away. And then and then you would kill the second, and it's like, okay, you know, so again, like nothing to do with the game whatsoever, you know, to listeners of this, like whatsoever. But at the same time, it's just like I question these things because I try to have that developer mindset of like, why is this a thing? You know, like continuity sense wise and all that, you know, so. Little observations.
No, there is some weird things like that and so on, you know, there. But it's weird because it's like in these first like 2 chapters post like the initial one, it started introducing you to all sorts of like gameplay mechanics here and so on like that, and that's where you get the upgrades, you get the matches, you get the stealth kills, you get the melee, you get the regular, you get your gun, and all this stuff, and you even find, you know, you go to one area where there's a bunch of enemies, and of course the doctor's like, oh, I need to get across the side. How about you, Seabass, make a distraction? And then, or no, he runs out there first like an idiot, like, oh, and you're like, oh, that guy's gonna fucking die. You know, and somehow, some way he survives, and then you got to fight a bunch of creatures in there, disarm some traps, you know, capture stuff, go through and break every single box because you got to find as much resource as possible. You fight that big chainsaw guy there, which is technically, I guess, like the enemy in the very beginning that you for some reason couldn't kill. You know, what the heck do they call him? They call him he does have a name. Drawing a blank on what it is.
I have no idea.
But that chainsaw enemy there, which is kind of intense, you know, for the fact of how fast he runs, because you run away from him and you kind of turn around and you realize he's right there. The upside is that the controls are like they're not necessarily straightforward Resident Evil style. They kind of switch to and a weird way to say it's like the Resident Evil 6 style, where it's like kind of full 3 motion. You know, you can move around just like what you would expect in a normal like almost like Uncharted or any of those kind of ones.
So I was thinking about that too, that concept of, okay, so this game is very similar to RE4. Like, I was thinking about it, like, what if they had designed this game to act like RE4 in terms of its shooting mechanics where you can't move, you know? Like, I mean, granted, the remake you can, I guess, but like the original RE4, where you just stand still and shoot. I'd be curious to kind of see, like, you know, like, alternate reality version of like what does that game look like, like how does that change up this concept, because the enemies are fucking fast in this game, dude. Like they move so quick.
Yeah, you would have to slow them down, I feel, if it was going for that Resident Evil 4 or 5 gameplay. You know, it's definitely too much there. Because even like, because one other thing they also add for this, which they have a stamina bar, which I'm not always the biggest fan of stamina bars in games. I'll accept them if they're kind of there, but I kind of would personally rather not have them. Now, granted, in this one, the only thing that stamina bar does is it's just for your sprinting. It has nothing to do with your melee attacks. It doesn't have to do with anything else, which is kind of good. And it's one of those ones that I kind of realize, I'm like, you almost don't even need to really sprint that much unless you really want to sprint. It's there for that brief moment, like, oh shit, there's something right there on me.
Yeah.
And that's all you really need. I never even upgraded it this round. I might have upgraded it the first time I played it, but I kind of realized, I'm like, it's not that important in this game. I can kind of, the game is designed that I should be able to get by with regular running. That the sprint's only there if you think you need it.
Well, and that's another one that kind of hit me in the head too. Again, just game developer brain. Because you... On before upgrading that stat whatsoever, it's like you can sprint for about 3 seconds. And I think about reality side of things. It's like, all right, Sabastion, are you really that much of an alcoholic, that out of shape? You can only fucking run 3 seconds, And then 2, okay, the game developer, if that's the case, like, why is this even a mechanic? Because it max, like when you max that stat out or whatever, it's like, cool, now I can sprint for like 7 seconds. It's like
you still can't even sprint a football field length.
but based off its design, it's kind of tight arenas. It's like, like you're right. There really isn't like open sections of the world that you have to like massively sprint through. And more often than not, moving quickly in this game is going to fuck you in some way or another because of traps, because of ambushes, because of, things like that. So it goes completely against like the game's design in general. So it just begs that question in my head, like, why is it even there? Just have like a standard 5-second sprint, that has nothing to do with the stamina bar, and just remove that mechanic entirely and put that development towards something else.
Yeah, it's that, or it's the other one I thought too, is just remove the sprint in general and just have him run just ever so slightly faster. That would be about it. Like just like a fraction faster for his normal, jaunt. Yeah. That would be kind of better. As I said, there is a lot of stuff in the Evil Within. It's definitely one of those games where I felt like, because it's not Capcom, I think Shinji Mikami's like, I just want to try out a bunch of features.
Oh yeah,
and we're gonna throw them all, and some will stick, some won't. But that's definitely what's going on here.
Yeah, this feels insanely experimental. For sure.
Because I feel it's like one of those ones you could almost remove the sprinting feature, especially if you ran just a fraction fast. Even if you didn't, even if you just ran the speed it was, the game would still totally work if you never sprinted once. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's ever a moment like, you might think you need to. There is some moments where you feel like you do, but I think even if you just ran without sprinting, you would be able to get away from whatever you needed to, no problem whatsoever. And realistically, half the time you're sneaking around anyways, because mainly you just don't want to step on something or trip a mine. That's the main reason I feel like it's not the enemies that I'm worried about running into. It's like, I'm just gonna run. I'm not even gonna go around a corner. I'm gonna be running down a straight path, and I'll step in a bear trap and run across like a trip mine, because the game does have those sort of like, they are definitely pushing the PS3's graphics kind of hard. Even on that, I was playing on the PS4, but like, it is one of those games where you're like, it's total tail end PS3, so they are a little bit kind of muddy looking of the graphics. Mm-hmm. Not bad, but just sometimes it's hard to point out certain details and so on.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it surprisingly on PC, like, it actually looks really good. It looks like that era for sure. Like it's that 360, PS3 era or whatever. Just to kind of break off on a quick tangent about the PC side of things. This game surprisingly does not work well in full screen. Which is completely against every other PC video game of all time. Typically, like, if you can't get a game to work properly, you throw it in the full screen. Usually, like, you can stabilize it that way. Not in this experience. It has 2 modes. It has a locked 30 frames per second mode or whatever, and then it has an unlocked frame rate. Initially I put in full screen, unlocked frame rate, max graphics, everything. Like, computer was running it just fine, and I was typically getting around like 144 ish frames or so. But very commonly, and I couldn't really figure out if it was an engine thing or if it was like a loading thing or like memory transfer thing. Something was happening, but like continually 144 frames, 50 frames, 144 frames, 50 frames, 144, and it's just constant, just back and forth, back, and that is jarring, dude. Like, especially in this type of game.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's too much. It's too bad they don't have a lock 60 frames. That's what
exactly
would be the better.
So get this. So I change it to windowed mode. So now I have like, you know, a borderless windowed mode, but I have the bar across the top that says the evil within. You know,
looks like you're playing it in 1995.
Exactly. You know, but it's unlocked frame rate. It locked itself to 45 frames for some reason. So I was able to play the entire game at 45 frames, consistent, rock solid frame rate. You know, like the entire experience in windowed mode. And I couldn't really figure out why. So doing a little post-in research after I completed it and whatnot. So similar to my comments throughout many of our episodes about like Steam's old versions of games typically are shit. You know, like you usually have to mod them. You got to go into INI files. You got to do something to fix them. This game also exists on GOG, and GOG's version got that update where everything works just fine and whatnot. There's also officially in the game, I guess, from what I understand, and it could be a mod, but there's a first person mode in this.
If there is
a GOG version.
Interesting. That might be that's probably kind of like a GOG mod, because I would say I don't remember that at all in the PlayStation, PS3, PS4 version. So that would be kind of interesting.
Really kind of considering it. Like, I won't buy it like outright, you know, like I'll wait on a sale or whatever, but I'm really kind of like considering like purchasing this on GOG just to see that, because this game in first person, dude, would be fucking nuts.
Well, yeah, I'm curious about that too, because when the upside is this is one of these games, it goes on sale. Like, I literally bought this for your birthday. They popped up on sale. No, I bought you Silent Hill for your birthday. Whatever. I bought you this just out of the, because it was like, they were on sale on Steam, and I was like, $4.99 for each one. Here you go, Cameron.
Hell yeah.
Because they're just that good. And they pop up all the time so cheap that, I mean, hell, if you have, I think, Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation, the subscription, they're on there as well, too. Like, these games are kind of just, like, Bethesda just sort of uses them like trading cards just to give out. To me, I feel like they're worth way more than that, but for some reason they're treated like they're, you know, dime store games. I almost want to check out that GOG one. That's kind of curious. Yeah. Because the one thing I keep thinking of more and more is the VR games, and like why certain games aren't converted over a lot more often and so on like that, especially those games that feel like they were almost designed to be. It's like when we were playing Soma, it felt like that game was made like a VR game, or that like Alien Isolation game. It felt like it was a VR game that just for some reason didn't have a VR headset. Everything about it was like designed for that, you know. But Evil Within would be kind of a cool one to see in that VR setting, you know, because, you know, they put Resident Evil 4 remake, Resident Evil 4 on the MetaQuest, you know, and even 7 and 8, and they're assuming that 9's going to be as well too. But so I'd say for our listeners or whatever, like if you're going to play this game on PC, like go with the GOG version. It seems like it's your best bet, you know. Especially if that extra bonuses sounds like that's kind of cool. You know, it sounds weird because I don't think of GOG when I think of newer games. Like I think of like GOG when I think of games in like the 80s, 90s, 2000s. Because this game feels like it should be fine on Steam, because it's 2014. You know, it's a pretty, in my opinion, still a pretty darn modern game. So it's kind of weird that it is a little jacked on that.
Yeah, and it totally could just be something as simple as compatibility issues, you know, because I mean, this game was, and what year did this game come out? Like 13, 14?
14, like 2014, yeah. So
it was a Windows 7 game by that point, you know. Maybe the early portion of Windows 10. I don't remember. Anyways, Anyways, yeah, it totally could just be a compatibility issue. It could be my hardware configuration. It could be a billion different things, you know, that were causing this game to run like ass on my computer for some reason. But like I said, yeah, just getting it down to borderless window and unlocking the frame rate. I got that rock solid 45 frames, man. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how what it runs on the PlayStation. There's got to be a way that you can check your frames per second on PlayStation. I always kind of wanted to look that up, and I never have.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Just out of curiosity, because I'm guessing it would be
60.
Yeah, 1080 60 if I had to guess. It feels, since it's technically an older game, even though I know it's kind of like day one PS4 game or first year. But The interesting thing too, I think, even about those traps, is I even wrote this note down, is like after like that first like whatever couple chapters you have all those traps in it and stuff. I noticed for like the next like 4 chapters, like those traps almost kind of disappear and like they're like gone. Like all of a sudden, I'm like, huh, and then they do come back later. So that's not like,
yeah.
I think they want you to sort of forget about them for a bit and then have you come running across them a couple more times. But I do notice that there's a period where like the traps, you're not running into bear traps and you're not running into trip mines or the stupid timer ones that those ones. Yeah, because those ones would get me so much so that sometimes I wouldn't even like. I mean, I got good at it after a while, but like, boy, it's like if you're not just right on that, you only get that one chance, and that thing blows up in your face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'd say like in general, this game feels like a culmination of a ton of different ideas, and I think that's totally like within its chapter to chapter design. This feels like the way that when Kojima left Konami in making Metal Gear and he created Death Stranding. This feels like Shinji breaking away from Capcom and making his Death Stranding, more or less. You know, like, let's try all the things, you know, like Shinji Unchained, more or less. You know, it's kind of like, you know, like that.
Well, that's what it kind of reminds me of, because it's like one of those ones, like, they don't have to play it safe here, you know? And this felt like this was kind of like when Bethesda kind of put this, which just always seems like a strange one, that's what this is under. You know, they're like, we're just going to get some random Japanese company, but it's got Shinji Mikami attached to it. So just let him like do his artistic. I felt like that's what it was. It was supposed to be like one of those ones. It's like you're buying an art house movie, you know, and it's like, it might not sell the best, but it will look good on our resume, you know, that we have it. And that's what I feel like Evil Within kind of is.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I said, now you start going through all these other parts, and the game continuously keeps changing, and it'll even bring out some enemies that like won't exist ever again. Like I think it's like on chapter 4 or 5. There's those invisible zombies that come out and like, no, I remember when that came out, RJ was so angry at those invisible zombies. And I remember telling him like, dude, it only lasts that one chapter. That's it. There's like 8 of them or whatever, and they're gone. Like, but it's one of those ones, like this game kind of makes you feel just like that very first chapter. You're like, is that what the rest of this game's going to have a lot of this in there? Is there going to be these stupid invisible zombies that like the only way you can kind of tell is if they step on a puddle of water or they bump into like a wheelchair or something in the hospital?
Yep.
And those can be kind of, because, you know, at that point, you know, you don't have a ton of ammo, like when this game kind of starts off. So every bullet kind of counts. And, you know, Sebastian's a little bit shaky on the draw because you haven't upgraded everything. So the stupid invisible zombies are not helping the cause, which I kind of just conclude, just use your shotgun at this point. Don't try to save it. It just, the pistol does not help you out with the invisible enemies.
So, okay, so this is, I'm glad that you brought up the shooting mechanics, because this is one other core design thing that they did in this game that drives me absolutely fucking bonkers. When you have when you have a shooter, I get it to an extent to where you have a protagonist that is not a gun expert. Okay, not everybody that picks up a weapon is going to be a gun expert or whatever. However, but when you have a fucking reticle that is floating out in the distance in your UI or whatever, and yes, his hand is shaky. He's doing this shit. I get it.
He's an alcoholic cop. You know, so he's a gun expert, but then he adds alcohol to the mix.
But bro, the amount of times that reticle, I'm like standing like 3 feet away from an enemy, and that reticle is like center of mass, dead center of the chest, and I pull the trigger and he misses. And it's like, because every shot counts. Everything matters in this game because of the resource management, because of the survival horror mechanic side of it. Like, I got so frustrated so many times throughout the totality of this play experience by missing shots where I really feel like I should not have, you know?
No, you're right on that, because I think there is because your reticle can be over something. Like I've had like headshots where it's like it's right on the head and the bullet goes right past him, because I think the gun has like, it's almost like it's one of those goofy things where it's like, yeah, you have an aiming mechanic, but then the bullets can stray a bit because you haven't upgraded it. Because like, you know, when you go in the upgrade thing and it's like when it asks you for like the sway or whatever, or I don't think it's that. It's like the way they name the accuracy is that it's almost like it gets tighter and tighter when you upgrade it more. And it's like one of those ones. I think that's what it is. It's not necessarily like the sway goes down more than it's literally your bullets won't miss like that.
Yeah, it's whatever.
It's kind of dumb. Yeah.
It's fucking retarded, dude. Like, it annoyed me so bad. But,
I mean, and if it bothers anybody enough, they do have an aim assist in this game, which I think that was almost. I feel like that was kind of thrown in there, just be like, some people are gonna get kind of pissed by this. That like, just give them the aim assist. The aim assist just kind of reminds me like Resident Evil, where just like it locks on, like you pull it out, and it's like it kind of makes sense for this type of game.
Well, so the other side of this too is that the combat is really good. It feels really good. Weapons feel awesome. Fucking impact of a bullet to a chest and the ragdoll physics of them stumbling around, you blowing off part of their fucking head. It's awesome, dude. It is so good. But yes, this random mechanic of just missing shots was annoying. So, because like I thought about it, because like we just finished Chronos. Like, imagine if Chronos had that. Like, Chronos had a little bit of weapon sway, but if that reticle,
but the bullet was if you miss, it was you. But like, because that game was even more like bullet dependent than even Evil Within is. But yeah, it's like, and it's only the pistol. Everything else I want to say is pure accurate. I mean, the shotgun is like, it's a shotgun. But then there's this other weapon in this game that actually is like kind of like the super unique gun for Evil Within. And they give you this cool thing called the Agony, which is a giant crossbow that has like 6 different bolts you can get in there, which of course that sometimes it's almost like six too many, even though I think they are kind of cool. But so many times I thought I had one loaded when I didn't, but because it's got like a regular like harpoon, which is pretty badass. Because when you shoot, speaking of the ragdolls, you shoot the zombie, but they like fly back. They're like harpooned into a wall and everything like that. You get like an explosive grenade round, you get a freeze round, you get electrical rounds. They all come really in handy. And then there's a flash one, kind of like the flash grenades in Resident Evil 4. And it's kind of neat. It's almost like sometimes, once again, I feel like a little too overkill on how many different bolts you have in there. But because that's like one of those guns, I almost feel like if that was the only gun you had in the game, it almost could kind of work. Like you could just have just these different bolts, and that's in this weird world. It's like this is what you're stuck with, is this weird crossbow thing. Because everything else kind of standard Resident Evil stuff. You got the pistol, you get the shotgun, you get the magnum, and you get the sniper rifle in a sense. And I do kind of like how they do kind of keep it at a minimum. It's not like you're getting like a copious amount of different guns, and there's no varieties. I like how it's just one. It's like you have a pistol, you have a shotgun. I think that's kind of nice, because even though in Resident Evil 4 and 5 it is cool that you find all these different ones and so on like that, but sometimes there's that thing, it's like sometimes it's kind of nice that I just have one and I just know that my upgrades are just going to that one I'm going to use, and I don't have to worry about oh hey, you're going to find another shotgun later on. It sort of looks better, but are you sure? I don't know, find out.
Right. Similar here too, because I very much agree. Like, and especially with the amount of survival horror that I've put in for the last year of my life or so, I do believe that simple is more proficient for not only like mostly for the player and the play experience and whatnot. Because you're right. Because I think about when you get that first shotgun in Resident Evil 4, and you're like, I'm gonna dump all my points into this bitch, and you do that, and then you get the later on shotgun, like the one with the drum mag or whatever, and it's like, well, fuck now, like, do I still spend money on my first one and just upgrade that thing to the max? And typically that's what I would do, is just like the very early on weapons, just max them out. Similar like Chronos, for example, maxed out that pistol initially, so yeah, I mean, there's some interesting things there, but I do agree that having the simplicity is definitely a lot better in this type of genre in my experience.
And it's like, realistically, other than the little bit of like the sway missing of the pistol, like the pistol still is really solid in this game.
Oh yeah,
when you get a satisfying headshot, it like you could take, especially because I got that. That's the one I definitely upgraded it to, like the 200% extra damage and whatnot, and you're just blasting your way through and so on there, and it is kind of nice because just a few weapons that you have, you kind of maximize those, and you kind of take that through there, and as our game's kind of going on, we start running in back to like Joseph and so on like that, and Kidman. And there's even some cool scenes where like those guys are actually with you for like a moment and so on. There's part where you got to save Kidman. She's stuck in this giant like pool of, whatever, drowning and whatnot. And all these zombies start coming out, and you got a cool little action scene there.
Well, again, like a lot of that type of stuff, like it reminds me of Saw. It's just like save the character. Like something bad's about to happen and whatnot. She's about to drown. And like do this like quick, really rudimentary puzzle and kill all the things. Like it's awesome. It kept the flow up really well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it gives you, there's just a lot. The one thing that I will say is just how much variety is as you're kind of going through this, you know, maze like thing. It's not all just like, hey, you know, it's, you know, you start off in this hospital, and of course everything has that Silent Hill kind of like industrial, like barbed wired kind of like, you know, steel mill kind of looks and so on, like in it. But then it's all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, you're literally going from like, hey, I'm in this village. Hey, I'm in kind of in like a city. Hey, I'm in this like old timey like cathedral. It looks like I'm out straight out of the 1600s. Right. All of a sudden, you know, where you go to that one area and there's like the couple giants you have to battle and everything like that, you know, and yeah, there's just the weird dog creature and everything.
So one note that I had made too was about some of these scenes. So like there's that scene where Sebastian's like on the train or whatever, you know, and like the train's like rolling along, and then there's like that transitionary scene where like the train's like crashing or whatever, and he goes flying, and he like, you know, breaks through reality and then ends up back in that hospital area with that chick in the safe room again. You know, he's just like in that hallway and whatnot. And I made a comment. I wrote a note to say like more or less that it's like, think of like just a really fucked up Matrix. Like that's kind of what this game reminds me of.
Well, that's 100% what it is.
Realities, you know. So
because it's Matrix. Everybody pretty much how this world works, and you figure this out a little bit later on the line, is that people are sitting in these like Matrix like bathtubs. So everybody's like in these things, and they got the little needle stuck in them, literally like the Matrix, and we have our main villain in here, Ruvik, that you kind of find, and he's just this guy, and it just looks like some emo guy with his little like white hood over and stuff, and looking all like, yeah, they burned me and my sister, and I'm angry, you know. Yep.
So the Ruvik character is super interesting because like once you actually like understand who this character is, or when you first start getting to know him and whatnot, because like there's a series of like 3 or 4 chapters that like focus on this character and like what happened to him and why we're in the situation we are in. I thought that it was super tasteful. I loved it right at the very start of this, like Spence mentioned, like we go to this, you know, this asylum basically or whatever, and you're in that scene of Sebastian like watching the footage of Ruvik that we find out later, you know, killing all the cops or killing all the people in that building and whatever. It actually kind of reminded me of the start of Parasite Eve 2. Like, you know, when we show up to the place and there's all the dead cops everywhere and all that. But yeah, no, I thought I thought it was super awesome. The just like in general, like how Ruvik's story actually molds like exactly like what the evil within actually is, because at the end of the day, this story really has nothing to do with Sabastion whatsoever. He's just along for this thrill ride.
Yeah, he just literally gets caught up in it. He happened to show up to work to this day, and that's what they went into.
Yeah.
You know, because there's even a part 2. There's this boss that's like maybe give or take chapter 5 or 6, and you fight this like spider looking lady called Laura, and they don't tell you much about her at that point. Just here's he is, and you kind of have to run around trying to light fires and so on like that. Yep. And you know, you kind of get her. There's like traps set around. There's things you can. Once again, this part is where one of the few times the matches does have a real purpose, because there's like literally a body laying there. Like, I know what that's for. Like, come here. And then right when she runs up, you throw it down, and then you know she's like, starts panicking and so on. Once again, you don't know why at this point, and you beat that one there. And that one's kind of a cool boss battle, because I don't think she can one hit kill you in that one, or if she can, it takes effort. Because I didn't get killed by her then. I got the second time you battle her, though. Boy, did I get killed by that a lot. Yep. Jesus, that part was almost like...
She is such a cool design, too, because she almost has like a spider-like feature to her, like the ways that she moves and whatnot. But totally, like, it plays into that. It's that Japanese horror grudge, you know, like long black hair, tenderly looking, you know, like, it's just creepy. Her noises she makes, too. It's just like...
Yeah. And what you learn later on is that that's Ruvik's sister right there. And for some reason, they were playing in the barn and whatnot, and the town folk are like, let's burn down this barn because we hate these neighbors or whatnot like that. Hey, there's some kids in there. I didn't hear any kids.
Yeah, I didn't hear
What's that Molotov cocktail? Yeah, fucking that little goofy nerdy ass kid and his stupid sister. Yeah, I'm sick and tired of looking at them.
Yep.
Yeah, so like they burned that down, and that's why she has that fear of fire, is because that's how she died, and Ruvik wasn't able to save her. And for some reason, Ruvik's whole thing is he wants to go back to the time period and hang out with his sister. So he goes through all this science and helps create this matrix-like system where he puts the protocol in that it has to use his brain, but of course the company that he works with figures out like, oh, we'll just get somebody else. We got this boy Leslie who's a mental case. He doesn't even know who he is. Like, he's perfect. He's got this blank slate brain. We'll just use that one. We'll replace it. So Ruvik and like the company, I think it's STEM is what they're called.
STEM is the device. The company's called Mobius.
Oh, that's right. Mobius is there. STEM's the device, and so they're kind of there. Ruvik and then the scientist guy, and you learn all these things throughout it. It is kind of it's one of those ones where it's like simple yet complex.
yeah.
Like the core stuff of it, matrixy. One scientist screws over another scientist. Company kicks him out. Yada yada yada. But there's just so much other weaving and entanglement in there that makes it feel like it's way more complex than it probably really is.
Yeah. And what I found really cool about like the whole, the fact that this game ended up being like a total sci-fi style, like it's actually kind of funny because like, we just played through Harvester and like, having like the virtual reality side of things. There's all these connections that are making place in my head. But having this like alternate realities situation where Ruvik is just like capturing all these people, putting them all into this machine or whatever, and then more or less just like dominating them like through through this alternate reality is really interesting. I really like some of the monster designs too, because from what I understand is like Ruvik is like totally feeding off of your fears and whatnot, and like creating these alternate realities, these monsters, these things that you're seeing in the world, based off those individual characters' fears and whatnot, which like it's kind of tropey, but at the same time, like I think it was really tastefully done here. There are some designs in here that are just god awful. One of the scariest, like actual, like holy fuck, I don't want to play this game right now, scary moments in this game was the some of the scenes of the water, like where you're around the water and there's like that little head thing that like comes up and it's like and again it's like that Japanese style, just long tendrily black hair, really fucked up face, looking thing, like fish looking thing. I don't even know what the hell it was, but like the entire time I would jump in the water, I would just like look away from the screen, just like nope. And you
just hear that music like dun 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 dun.
It's just it got me, dude. It got me.
And that part where you gotta like shoot down the dead bodies to feed it so you can swim past it.
Yep.
I remember there was one time I got killed right there because the gate closed on me right as I got to it. I was like, you stupid gate.
Well, so the game does another thing in those scenes where, so if you're swimming along or whatever, the camera's like always like back right behind your right shoulder or whatever, but if that thing catches you or at least like notices you or whatever, like the bubbles start to come up out of the water, the camera's kind of pulls backwards, and then like you see the monster like off in the distance, your character's right here and you're swimming away and it's like slowly chasing you and you're like no please,
go faster.
I know that got me pretty good. So
well, that is the kind of thing though, is there is some like very neat enemies. Like the other one too is like there's like this kind of major enemy that like is kind of shown a lot of times in promotional stuff, but it's kind of like this game's Pyramid Head's the best way to sort of say it. It's the Keeper, and it's a dude who pretty much has like a butcher's uniform on and a real big guy, but he's got a safe on his head. That's the thing, is what it is. And it's like one of those ones like when you get to the scenes where they're at, like you kill them and it's like they keep coming back to life. And granted, if they didn't drop a copious amount of goo for you to, it would be one of those moments where you're like, oh, I just got to get out of here. But when you're like, keep coming back, it's like build up my currency here. Because like it's one of those ones. Like one of the ways I was killing them was like you would shoot down like the electric round and it would stun him, or the freeze round even, and then blast him. Like you take like 1 or 2 grenade rounds, and then he's like, oh, he's dead. Grab it, grab the goo, go flip the like the lever or the valve or whatever the heck what you need to do, and but those parts are kind of intense because you hear that and the thing's rebuilding itself again.
Well, but, and I loved how that one was revealed too, because like you see the head of the thing, like it doesn't have the body at the time or whatever, but like
you see a
safe, sitting on the ground, and then you go a little bit further and there's another safe on the ground, then another safe, and you like see like a handful of them scattered around this level or whatever. But at that exact moment, it's just it's part of the environment, like whatever. There's weird shit in this game, and then when you start to turn that first fucking lever thing, and then like Sabastion starts to like turn, and it's just like chunk, just like frame after frame, and then the thing starts to build itself up. Yeah, dude, like it was a really, really cool introduction. And I even love the one. It's a brief little cutscene that plays. I think it's in that same area or whatever. But the keeper can't get to you because he's on the other side of a fence from you or whatever. And it walks up to you and it like slams its hammer up against the fence or whatever. And then it just grabs the bottom of its own jaw and it just pulls its head off, kills itself so it can spawn the fucking safe behind you, in the same room with you and whatnot. And I was like, oh, dude, that's cool. That's really tasteful. That was cool.
No, that creature's so cool. I think that's the one that really like takes the cake in this game. Like, it's a cool design. It's cool, like the way it kind of is there. It's kind of weird. There's a DLC chapter that lets you play as that creature, and it's weird because it plays in first person. Maybe that's where that first person starts off at.
Oh, maybe.
And you just kind of go around, and you just kind of kill things and so on like that. I tried out a little bit of it too. It was kind of interesting. And then it just got to a point where it's like, oh, okay, this is going to be a little bit more of a time sink thing. But they tried to put this thing in here, like this keeper guy was searching for like his daughter. I was like, I don't know if I'd like, it sounds weird. Like, I kind of liked when this was just some random ass monster instead of like, oh, it's just a poor guy trapped in the thing, like looking for his daughter. So he has to, go meet tenderize everybody else in the area.
Exactly.
But still kind of interesting as like a side shoot thing. It kind of reminded me of like one of those like special features you would have got like in Resident Evil 2 or something like that.
Sure.
Just like they also had DLC for like, there's like, it sounds cool. There's like where you play as Judy Kidman, who's like kind of like our other main antagonist / main character as well in this thing, and you sort of see her side of the story. Granted, it kind of was like one of those ones that has like more enemies in it that give you like one hit kills, and I was like, I kind of got a little bit into it. I'm like, this sounds cool, and I wouldn't mind seeing more of the story because it looks like they actually put some effort in this DLC. But I was like, nope, I'm not. I can only do so many of those one hit kill enemies. Like once I found, I was like, yep, if that's what it's gonna be, no.
Yeah.
I don't want stealth and one hit kill enemies at the same time. That's like, you can pump that back.
Yep.
But because of course she has like no weapons or anything like that because she loses it like in the beginning. But which you learn later on in the main story that she turns out that she actually is working for Mobius, and she's sent in there to kind of like investigate and try to get everything working out and to kill off the Leslie, the mental patient guy.
Yeah. Okay. So post in research, because I did not play the DLC myself. So post in research, I read about all that in that like she is more or less there undercover to go kill this Leslie kid or whatever, or go capture him or whatever her mission is. But I thought that Leslie character was actually really interesting too, because I could not get a beat on what the fuck that character was for the longest time up until towards the end. When you actually like understand who he is and why he's there. But this kid, like in general, he's just very pale skinned, like almost like white hair, blue eyed like type kid or whatever, very very like lanky. Yeah, exactly. He's like this albino kid. And it's just constantly just screaming. He's just, just like grabbing his face, just constantly screaming all the time. And then, come to find out, like way later, like Mobius wants to keep him because he's the only person that has gone into STEM and has come back out, like okay-ish, I guess. Like I mean, he's obviously fucked in the head, but like he's alive. And then the whole thing is that STEM only works because of Ruvik's brain, which you find and like Sabastion like takes the brain out or whatever and destroys it. So supposedly like Mobius wants to utilize the strengths of STEM's technological capabilities, but use a more sane brain with Leslie. And that I guess Ruvik wants to like possess Leslie because he's in the real world and he actually exists or something like that. Like there's some pieces that I've got some gaps in my head, towards the end of this game where I really was trying to piece it together but wasn't able to. And again,
I think it's something like that. Is if Ruvik's able to take over Leslie, then he'll stay in control, and because Leslie's in a sense like going to be the one that's going to replace him, and he doesn't want that.
Right.
But for some reason, Leslie just like stumbles through this area, no problem whatsoever, dodges all the traps and zombies. Yep. And Sabastion has to come up behind and kill and take care of all that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, because even at the very end, and I might be skipping ahead a little bit, but like even at the very end, it's like Sabastion like gets out of STEM, like he's back in the asylum again or whatever, and he's like leaving, and you see Leslie like walking off in the distance beyond all the patrol cars and out of the asylum or whatever, and it's just kind of like one of those endings, and at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, Ruvik got out, he possessed Leslie and now he's out. And like, I'm very much assuming that's what the second game's about, but like, it's hard to say until we get there, but.
Yeah. And I almost can't remember exactly. I know that the second game, because this other story element that you find is every single time you find a save point or whatnot that leads you to the mirror, that leads you to the nurse's room and so on, is that you find these little journals from Sabastion back in the day, and they start like in 2005 and work their way up to the game. And it goes to show like, oh, it's like when I first joined the force, yada, yada, yada. Oh, hey, there's this girl on the team, like whatever, me and Joseph, we don't know if she'll work out too well, but we'll find out. And it's like, oh, I think I still have feelings for her. Oh, and then they get married, they have a kid, and you start seeing this. Then the kid ends up dying in a fire with I can't remember if the mom dies too. No. The kid just died. The kid for some reason dies with the nanny or something like that.
Yeah.
In a fire and so on like that. And then both the parents kind of astray from each other. And then she takes it differently, and then it hits him differently. He's like, well, I just use alcohol. It's like, this seems to fix the problem, and so on like that. So Seabass becomes kind of an alcoholic here and so on. If I remember correctly, the second one involves him kind of trying to find the remnants of like the daughter and so on like that. Oh, so that stuff that's all like
we're gonna have another bad dad ending game.
Yeah, Party dad, yeah. That's still like one of the best endings. Isn't that Silent Hill Shout Memories is Party Dad? we need more party dads. That's where like the Evil Within kind of carries a lot of that more. I feel more Silent Hill stuff, because in this one here, if it wasn't for those little journal entries, Sabastion just seems like he's just he's just the main cop of the team here. Like that's all it really seems like. That's the only real backstories you get with Seabass. Like nothing else is anything. So because other than that, he's just literally caught here on this day. So many things like if you took those journal entries out of it, it's like it'd almost kind of be, even though there's nothing wrong with those journal entries because they do add to it, like it would make it feel more like you, the player, or Sabastion, because he is kind of a little bit more like a Link, where he's a little bit more of a blank slate in a sense, and he's just like he's the player.
Yep.
But yeah, so there's that there, and I can't remember what else I was going with some of those character things. Trying to think of some of those other like interesting ones there. Well, because like towards the end, that's where you sort of learn that like, oh, Judy Kidman's not the rookie. She actually is, sent in, and she's the one kind of in charge of like keeping this operation in check and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I thought of like it just in general. I mean, the game was very confusing for majority of it, but I also think it was intentionally designed that way. Like I think that the director wanted you to be in Sebastian's shoes. Like no idea what the hell is going on, because again, like, and especially once you start getting into like the mixed reality type stuff and whatever, like I said, like you're on a train car and then all of a sudden, bam, you're back in an asylum again, and you're just like time warping and doing all this like weird shit and whatnot. Like I think it was very, very intentionally designed that way to confuse the player, but also give you like these revelations towards the end of the game. Like I said, like the whole Sabastion leaving the asylum place or whatever, and like it's he finally got out and it's the end of the game, and like, oh, but now there's Leslie like walking off in the distance, because now for me it's like knowing that you and I are going to play through the Evil Within 2, now it's like I have all these questions in my head of like, well, are we going to see Ruvik again? Are we going to, like what the fuck is the next part going to be? So it did a very, very good job in continually having me question things in my own head, which kept the drive up for sure, to want to learn more and continue and, complete it. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it does kind of lead a lot of that stuff in there. I was just kind of looking at some of my extra notes and so on that I kind of went with there. There was a puzzle that I thought was actually kind of neat where like there's a part where you come across these like brains and you have to pretty much stab a needle into it. And it tells you like the scientific area that you're supposed to hit like on the cortex and everything like that, which other than manually looking up in like a textbook, or online nowadays, I don't even remember if it does give you like a note or anything like that that tells you like, because I tried looking around the room to see if there was a brain like poster on the wall that said what it was. Instead, I just go, well, let's find out, and just start stabbing away, and that thing's like, But then every single time you stab it, the interesting thing is your health goes down a little bit, which I thought that's kind of a cool thing. Just for the fact it makes it feel like, am I stabbing my own brain when I'm doing this?
So it's a 3-part puzzle. So two of the 3, I couldn't find anything in the room or like any notes or anything like that on trying to figure out where to stab their brain in. One of the 3 though, there's like literally an image, like there's the head and the brain, like right in front of you or whatever, and like on the table, like right next to its stand or whatever, there's like an image of the brain with like a puncture point that you can see. So that's how I figured out that one that got me through the next 2 or whatever. So maybe it is just the first one, and then you have to kind of figure it out from there or something. But
yeah, I feel like that's one of those ones, like if you knew like what the brain chart is, which I don't know, is it because it's just like it's an A4 and it's like, okay, I'm just thinking like battleship style A4, exactly. Let's go across, and no, that's not it. Every time I'm gonna stab this brain, I'm gonna have to use my serum and shoot up.
and it is a really cool like image too, like these brains and whatever, because like the one has like part of the cap, like the skull is like missing off the back of the head or whatever, but the really interesting one's the one that's just split like right down the center of the head, and like half the face missing, and you could just see like right down it. It's really, really interesting. So
yeah, no, there's cool anatomy type stuff throughout this game and that design and whatnot there. Speaking even of health stuff, I'm kind of glad this is one of those like survival horrors that doesn't have a copious amount of different health items that you're collecting. It's just got 2. You got the serum, so it just looks like you're shooting up heroin every single time, and then you got these like first aid packs that you get very rarely, and it's like, it's kind of nice. I like that. Like it's not like Dino Crisis 2 where you got 5 different health packs for some dumb reason that you don't need.
Yeah,
it's like one of those ones.
Majority of this game is just so simple, like I mean the mechanics are simple, the design is simple and all that, and I think it's just beautiful the way that it all works. I'm very curious because like you said, the burning mechanics and whatnot, I'm so curious to see like what they did with the second game, because I think that the set's just such a good foundation. So
well, and from what I remember, because I haven't played the second one since it first came out, but I just remember playing that one being like, oh, everything's extremely dialed in this one. Like, like I almost don't even remember like any like, no major complaints for sure. I don't remember the one-hit kill, because that's almost like the one thing I took away, because I almost forgot how many one-hit kill enemies there is in this game, / sometimes scenes. Because there's some of those scenes that, I mean, they're in Resident Evil and stuff where, like, all of a sudden you're going down a trap and you're like, oh, shit, I got to look up there. The blades are coming, and blast a little thing, and it stops, the mechanism from going, So, I mean, at least for the most part, the autosave mostly kicks in, like, right beforehand. This game doesn't screw you over too much with that kind of thing, because nothing's worse than, that's like playing Resident Evil 1 back in the day, and you get to the boulder part and you don't know about that, and that boulder smashes you and you're like, when was my last save?
So there can be, so I had this happen once, and just want people to be aware of it. So there's some, in my experience, there was a scripting issue. So a lot of these areas, especially in combat scenarios or whatever, a lot of these areas will just like, it's just wave based enemies, just wave after wave after wave. I don't, and I still am like questioning what even really happened here. I may have killed a wave too quickly or something, because the next wave just would not spawn. And I sat there for like a good 15-20 minutes just waiting, and seeing how long the game would actually like, before it would do anything, and it just never did. So there's definitely like some form of scripting issue there, so like I'd be curious. And really what happened was like the enemies that spawned in or whatever, I was using the grenade, and like killed like 4 of them, you know, pretty much like all in one hit or whatever. And then there was one large guy that I took out with my shotgun, and then just sat there and waited and waited and waited, you know, like nothing really happened. So I'd be curious to see like how widespread that actually is, like if other people have actually experienced that or not, or maybe it was just a fluke, you know, on my end. So
yeah, and you just restart and it just came back on.
So that was the so that save point was the chapter start. So I had to go back and redo the whole chapter, which was like 10 minutes of gameplay. It really wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot, but still, yeah. Yeah, because for the most part, like, this game does give you a pretty good amount of save points, too. Like, you know, not only do you have the auto saves, but you run across those mirrors more often than you think.
Yeah.
You know? And a lot of times I always do that. It's like one of those games where it's like, well, I changed a couple features here, or I found a couple jars of goo. I'm saving anyways. I don't care. I just don't want to forget that I, you know, got those already. So you do that. But, yeah, it's like, other than that, though, it's just there were some of the one-hit kills that kind of that's like the biggest con, I would say, of this game, is that like there's more of that, because not only that guy in the beginning, whatever, once you get past that, it's not the end of the world, especially once you know what to do. Of course, there's that second battle with Laura where like, dude, like that one there, because you have to get in there. You're running in. There's fire going everywhere. The spider lady's coming down after you and so on like that. You got to run these areas, and you got to need to do it on a New Game Plus when you have like the rocket launcher and the upgraded harpoon that burns and all these things. Because it just takes too much, and for the fact that she's a one-hit kill. So if she gets right in, the downfall is all she has to do is touch you, and you get the cutscene and you die. It's another one of those ones that I wish she would just do a lot of damage, and you'd be like, well, I don't want to get hit by it because she takes like half my health, but at least let me survive and be able to shoot up and then keep going, you know. But no, that part right there, like, boy, because you kind of had to time it and so on. And what it was like that last room, because you got to spin this valve, and, you know, as long as it takes to spin the valve, she's going to be right behind you. And then if you try to go the direction that she's not, well, guess what? There's a wall of fire right there. And for some reason, as much as she hates fire, she's literally like all of like a couple inches away from it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just got lucky. I literally got lucky that I was able to slide by her once.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Because once you slide by her, you just run out the door and you're like, ha-ha, shut that gate on her, like, and just leave her there. But like, yeah, ugh. You get an achievement though for killing her though. So if you do want to get ballsy, like,
yep. So one other brief comment, mechanical thing that I thought was pretty. I actually thought it was funny. So when you go up to valves and you start to turn the valve or whatever, the prompt is showing you tap A, you know, tap, you know, like that or whatever. Bro, did you know you could just hold that button and it does the same exact amount of turning? Really? So every valve has a range of, so it does have a variance in it. It's either 4 or 5 of those prompts, right? So more often than not, it's usually 4. I did come across a couple valves that were 5. But in that, you know, the A button shows up and it's showing you to mash on it or whatever. So I just held it. And then I did tests of holding it versus smashing on it or whatever, resetting a save, you know, to do it. It's the same exact amount of progress, regardless if you hold it or if you tap it, you know, or whatever. And I was like, okay, so the rest of the game, I just like, well, just hold it, you know, and just like, you know, you get your little fifth of a bar or whatever, and then you go, you know, run around a couple times, kill the monsters, go back, hold it, you know, get another fifth of the bar. So
that must be like one of those very early days accessibility features. Because the weird thing is, you don't see tapping anymore in video games. They kind of got rid of that, which is the most bizarre thing. Is I've always felt like I'm putting my Mario Party skills to use in game now in real world situations.
There's too many manufacturers out there just like, please stop, you're breaking the controllers.
Yeah. Because I always kept wondering what that was. I'm like, was it because you're wearing out the controller more, or is it because I hate to start saying, just like if you can't handle tapping, it's like you shouldn't be playing video games. Sorry, get out of here. You don't deserve to be in the club. You know, it's one of those things. It's kind of like when like first person shooters have like those like warning things of like stuff on there. I'm like, I don't want anybody who can't handle like what's going to go on in this game. I don't think they should be even near any of this stuff in the first place. They should not be allowed to even play a first person shooter if you can't handle guns and killing. Like, get out of here. You're done. Sorry, you signed that waiver. You're out. You know, but That's interesting. Yeah, you can just hold that down there and so on like that. You know, I always like tapping. I feel like once again, I'm just a big fan of tapping. It just reminds me of like that's part of gaming is like how good are you at tapping? You know, it goes back to even like the olden days of like test your might in Mortal Kombat 1 and so on like that. You know, and just Mario Party mini games where you got to out tap your friends. Yeah, you know.
Well, in this context, it totally adds to the panic horror side of things too. It's just like, oh, I got to turn that fucking thing before he gets here. You know,
and God forbid if that stupid Spider Woman's right behind me.
No, I know it.
Yeah, so because the only other one too is I think it was in chapter 9 when you're running through like the mansion section. That's kind of like Resident Evil. Is that Ruvik will appear once in a blue moon, and the thing is he disappears after like 20 or 30 seconds. So all you got to do is kind of like get out of the way of him, but he'll do a one-hit kill, which is kind of annoying, you know. That part's kind of dumb.
Well, and that was a whole other thing too. So like that mechanic right there, the run and hide mechanic. Like so, this game has that. You know, like it you can hide under the bed, you can hide in the closet, you can hide in the thing or whatever. You know, but it happens like 3 or 4 times throughout the whole game or whatever, and it's like again, it's just kind of a throwaway mechanic at that point, you know.
Yeah, well, and it's weird because those closets and beds, they're like all over the place. Like even with just the regular zombies, the only thing I could think of is if you're playing it like on Inferno mode or like Akuma mode or whatever, maybe that comes in handy in that part. You know, if you're playing it on like the really hard modes, maybe
I couldn't imagine playing this game on hard, to be honest.
No, I hate to say this is one of those games like I don't think I'd go any higher than normal. I feel like it'd be too frustrating on anything else. It's like, especially if some of those one-hit kill sections and so on. Like, yeah, because the game, I'll say the game even just on casual is already really challenging. It's kind of like the game was like casual is more like the normal. The normal is more like hard, and then hard's more like super hard, and then I don't even want to know what Akuma's like.
Right. Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Yep. You know, and it's not one of those games where you can take your like progress of like the New Game Plus, because I will say this game has a great New Game Plus in it.
I was going to ask about New Game Plus because I didn't even look myself.
So on New Game Plus, I don't know what you unlocked, but because for some reason I don't remember unlocking this when I beat it on PS3. I remember unlocking the machine gun, so you get like a cool machine gun is like your bonus weapon. I also unlocked the rocket launcher on this one on PS4 right now.
Oh, really?
But I don't remember the rocket launcher on PS3. I know it's been like 15 years, so who knows? Maybe I did, but maybe I just got a little bit faster time, and that's why I got it. So you get those, which is kind of neat, and then of course they give you like an extra 50,000 points of goo, so you can go in there and upgrade some more. / now you start picking up all the stuff over again.
Gotcha.
So you can kind of go in there and just max your character out and so on like that. I always kind of wish, because I had that PS3 file, like is one of those ones I always said like, it'd be nice if I was playing that version, and when I came back to play the game, I could play my New Game Plus one and actually enjoy it. Because a lot of times the only downfall to a New Game Plus is by the time you go through a game, especially like the Evil Within, like as great as it is, it doesn't have like the like, boy, do I want to go back and replay this right this second kind of feel. Like I feel like you it's like because of how kind of panic horror and so on, you feel like you're a little bit like stressed out towards the end. And as I said, there's just a handful of those scenes that I will say kind of, it's like just knowing that like there's those one-hit kill moments you got to get past. I played a little bit of the New Game Plus. I got to like chapter 4 because I just wanted to upgrade some stuff and get a couple of achievements that I knew I could get and test out that rocket launcher and so on. And it was kind of cool and so on like that. It's cool when you go through that like the beginning area and you just blow things up and so on like that.
Oh yeah.
It's like I wouldn't mind going and killing like that like chapter where you have to go kill the spider lady, like the 9th one, and just seeing if I could kill her with all the stuff I have upgraded. That would be kind of neat.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if I want to go there's just some other things in between that'd be like yeah. I mean, it probably wouldn't be that bad with all the upgrades, but like you have to go through that again and so on. And
no, this game did not have the same. Like when we finished like Silent Hill F for my very first playthrough of Silent Hill F, I was immediately hitting, all right, next play. I'm gonna go play that one again. I'm very glad that I played this. Inevitably, I will play it again in the future. I would like to check out that DLC eventually too, just kind of get the flavor context of that. But yeah, it's not the type of game to where like upon completion, because I completed it about 3 or 4 days ago now. No desire.
Yeah.
I want to see the sequel. I want to see the sequel for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It's like it's just it's missing those like golden ingredients that makes for the replay. Like, because that's why Dino Crisis 2 stands out. Because every time I play Dino Crisis 2, I always play it twice in a row. Granted that game's only like 5 hours long, so
right, yeah.
But like Resident Evil 3 is another good example. Like, and especially that Resident Evil 3 remake. That one was like 100% made for like I played that game like 6 or 7 times in a row when it first came out. So there's certain games. The key thing I think to making a good replayable survival horror game is that generally when like the game is just smooth the whole way through. Yep. If you got a couple rough patches, I don't know what it is, because that's what you do is you think about those rough patches like, gotta do that part again. I can come do it next time. I'll wait till I forgot about it and the next time I come by. Yeah, exactly. And it's not saying that the Evil Within is like one of those ones. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed playing it the first time I played it back on PS3, and then I did play it when I got it on PS4 initially, because it was one of the first PS4 games I bought. I remember.
Really? Yeah.
And then this probably is like the third time I've played it. So it's like, it's well worth playing through. And as I said, I still think of it being one of the top tier of like, if you want survival horror. Like, I remember when this game came out, that was the thing, is for everybody who was complaining about Resident Evil 5 and 6, I was like, play the Evil Within. This is 100% this is what you want. It has all the survival horror elements, but in a modern game.
Right. Yep. Yeah, no, I'd commit to that thought too. It's actually funny because like I talk to a lot of people, all my friends and whatnot, and this podcast pops up quite often in conversation, and they're like, oh, like, what are you playing next and whatever. And this time, like, multiple people, when I said the Evil Within, they're like, oh shit, like, hell yeah, like that's cool, like, hell yeah. And I very much agree with them, man. Like, I'm stoked that we finally got had the chance to be able to sit down and play this. I finally understand like a lot of what I've read about this game and heard about this game over all these years, and a lot of it's reminiscent of what you say. Shinji's magnum opus. This is like golden, survival horror of new era. Like blah blah blah. And I fully see it, and I understand it now at this point, and I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I think if you're a fan of this genre, like, whatsoever, and especially, like I said, like the direct DNA correlations of RE4 of this title, like, fucking play it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it has all that in there, and it just feels like it's one of those ones that just, you take all the years that Shinji Mikami's been working on survival horror, and then and plus just looking at other stuff too, because there's a lot of Silent Hill elements to it. Like, it kind of reminds me, like, if Shinji Mikami made a Silent Hill game, the Evil Within is what you would get. That is 100% like his kind of version of like Silent Hill, but with the Resident Evil mechanics in place. And just everything about it, it's just like, it is still solid, even if there is just a couple minor rough patches that probably are, if you time them out, they're probably less than you think, but like, you still think about them. And as I said, I almost want to say, if I remember correctly, the second one kind of, I'm going to say there'll probably be some rough patch, but I remember it being really streamlined. I remember it being just like, everything in it was just even more dialed in. It has kind of like even a Silent Hill aspect where you're actually in like a little town environment and everything like that. And you kind of run through and certain things open up later down the line and whatnot. And you kind of go back and forth. Not, where this one's kind of straight, you're on the linear roller coaster going through. The second one kind of has a little bit of that partial Silent Hill open world feel to it. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And for the fact that we're playing back to back, I think that's kind of cool, Yep. And once again, it's not talking about, like, even though I know we said, like, it does still have a pretty good New Game Plus if you did, decide you wanted to carry on. Too bad it doesn't have that New Game Plus where, like, that you can change your difficulty. I always kind of like when they have that. I mean, I know that's kind of like a different tier, but like, I feel like that's where you like, you feel like you can, earn your way up. But oh yeah. But yeah, no, Evil Within, it's cool. I wish that he would do a third one or something else kind of in that style. I know he tried that Ghost game, was like the last thing he did with this company. And I remember when that came out, I was like, oh, new Shinji Mikami game. And then when I saw it, I was like, it's a goofy Ghost game. I'm like, it's on like PlayStation Plus, so I feel like I might give it a go. I felt bad because I felt like that was like the first time that was like I was just kind of not nearly as excited for it. That Tokyo Ghostwire or whatever.
Ghostwire Tokyo. Okay, so I have tried to. I had no idea that was a Shinji Mikami game.
So yeah, that's literally the same company as Evil Within too. So it's that Tango GameWorks or whatever.
I gotcha. So I've tried that game twice now, like Fair Shakes twice, and I can't, man. Like I can't get into it. Really cool concepts, really cool design. Like awesome visuals and whatnot, but like. yeah, the whole ghost, I don't know, man. It didn't land well with me. So
Yeah, and it's one of those ones. Yeah, I don't know. Like as I said, I remember when I saw the trailer for it. It was just one of those ones where I was like in writing, I was excited about it. Then I saw the trailer, and I was like, okay, yeah. As I said, maybe I'll give it a go one of these days, just to say I tried it, just to the old college try. But
yeah. Well, I'd say especially with this title too, man. Like, so just kind of a, like, end of year recap of this podcast. Like, out of everything we've played this year, like, this was such a good one to end on. I feel, like it because you're right. Like, it envelops everything that we enjoy and like about the survival horror genre in modern sense. Has some old school elements to it that are callbacks and whatever. And just generally was just a fun ride, and I think that more so than anything, like the games that I would put into like a rating scale of out of 10, this game for me kind of falls somewhere in that 7-ish range or whatever, but similar to Resident Evil 5, similar to Shattered Memories, Silent Hill, like, yeah, these games aren't like perfect 10s, but they have their place, and they're so good on their own, like, and they stand on their own 2 feet. And I just very much enjoyed like literally everything we've played this year to an extent, and to end 2025, because I mean, here we are, like literally on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, literally the last day of the year. I didn't even think about that, but that's what it is. As we're recording this,
it's just awesome, dude. It was such a fun experience, and I'm glad that we decided, like middle of the way through, look outside, going like, I don't know if we're gonna finish this on time.
Yeah,
it's taking too long.
Yeah.
Like,
it also made me kind of think for future was like probably RPGs are like that one. Like you gotta know what you're getting into as well too, especially if there's other stuff. But not saying that it didn't look cool, and not saying that I didn't like a lot of the stuff in it, But no, I think Evil Within, because I think it took me 12 hours, at least according to my time. With depth wise, it probably was like an extra hour plus, but because of so many times you got to restart. Because I like this game tells you like you died 46 times. I'm like, yeah, you know why I did. Let me be honest. I don't think I died 40. I don't think I died probably even 5 times on normal enemies. I died because of stupid like one hit kills.
Yeah, for me, I forgot. It was like 15 and a half hours clocked and like 60 some odd deaths, and majority of those deaths were the one hit kills, and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I got through it.
As I say, well, it's one of those games too, like, when I went to play it, like, I mean, like, it's like I sat down and like once I kind of get past that initial chapter, it's like I'm just rolling with it. Like I had almost even put the brakes on, like I got let's space this out a little bit. I gotta wait till, because you were having a computer issues and so on like that. I'm like, well, I don't want to just totally beat this game and then like 2 weeks later we finally all catch up and so on like that, because it did make me just want to, like, once you kind of get going, you're like, knock out another chapter and so on like that, and it's that perfect where it's not, if it was any longer it would be kind of probably dragging a little too much, but it's still pretty good. It probably, like anything, like I still think the nice time is like about 10 hours for a survival horror, because but if you're between that 10 and 15, not too shabby.
Well, this game gets a pass in my eyes because of its variety. Like literally you're not doing the same thing twice, whereas something like, like Chronos, for example, like, I mean, part of my problems with Chronos is that we did a lot of the same things over and over and over again, and that game felt extremely padded for no good reason. At least here it's like, okay, yeah, I'm turning dials on, like, or I'm like, turning valves on this one level, but the next level it's like I'm on the back of I'm in the back of a car shooting, like some giant monster, which, by the way, that chase scene with the large fat monster looking spider thing, that was so cool, man. And the whole time that's happening. So like to explain to the audience, it's another like on rails turret section, more or less, like, and this monster is like, like jumping on top of the bus that you're on or whatever, holding you down. You got to break its legs and shit, so it finally lets go. And then you're like doing this chase scene through the city and blah, 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 while shooting at it. And the whole time I'm just like, it's RE5. It's Resident Evil 5. It's like, it's
Resident Evil 5 and Dino Crisis 2.
Yep, exactly.
Here we go, because that is the one thing, though, is I will say it's like one of those ones, like, it is more similar to Resident Evil 5 than you would think this game. You know, it just has more horror elements because it really is. It's not that much different than 4 and 5, but if you just made everything more darker and more creepier in a sense, you know, and just double down on that part of it. But yeah, no, everything about this one is still pretty solid, even with its few goofs and so on throughout there. And I think it is a good one to end the year on because it does encapsulate a lot of like survival horror all in one. Like it's almost that one. If you had explained to somebody what survival horror was from like 1990 to like, you know, now, The Evil Within, I think kind of goes like, this kind of tells you it all right there. It's got the mix of like the actual survival horror, the darkness, the weirdness, the creepiness, the action, the, you know, everything kind of in there. A little bit of light puzzles here and there. Notes, all that stuff. It's all in there, and it's one of those ones. And as I said, I want to say the second one from my memory is even better. Like that's kind of how it is.
I very much look forward to it. I very much do.
But yeah, beyond all that good stuff, you can go check out The Evil Within on all kinds of platforms. Of course, they practically give it away on PlayStation and Xbox, but then it goes on sale for next to nothing on GOG and Steam. And I'm kind of actually interested for that GOG version if it does have a first-person mode in it.
Yeah.
You know, if that's the case, I'll pick it up for $4.99 or whatever the heck. Yeah. You know, why not? I buy so many games over multiple times, and it's even like when I bought games on GOG and Steam, it feels kind of like, I don't know what it is, because they're both on PC. It feels like you literally bought the game on like like Xbox or PlayStation twice on that same system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, but like, it's like, whatever, at that price, it's so low. That's like an arcade price, just happens to be nowadays, you know? But, beyond that, you can check out more of our Silent Evil podcast on YouTube and Spotify, along with Old Man Orange podcast. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I am Cameron.
And we'll see you some other time.